right now, as you settle in, as the weight of the day finally begins to lift from your shoulders. There is something out there in the dark. Not the dark of your room. Not the dark of the sky outside your window. Something much, much further. Imagine pointing your finger at the night sky. Not at a star. Not at the moon. But at the space between the stars. At the truly empty places. Now imagine that somewhere out there, in a direction your finger could never quite find, there is a small golden disc, spinning, slowly, in absolute silence. It is the size of a vinyl record. It weighs less than a kilogram, and it has been traveling away from us for longer than most of the people alive today have been breathing. It carries no engine. It carries no fuel. It is simply falling, endlessly, through the longest night there has ever been. And on that disc, encoded in microscopic grooves pressed into gold-plated copper, is the sound of rain, the sound of surf washing against a shore, the thump of a human heartbeat, the laughter of a child, songs, mathematics, the electrical hum of a woman's brain while she was falling in love. Everything we were when we were young enough to believe the universe was listening. Tonight, we are going to go with it. There is nowhere you need to be. Nothing you need to do. Whatever today asked of you, you gave it everything you had. And now, the asking is done. I want you to let your body become heavier. Not heavy like burden. Heavy like warm sand. Like the kind of heaviness that happens when you have been in the sun all day, and the evening finally comes, and you sit down, and you realize you do not have to move again tonight. That is the kind of heavy I mean. I have always loved this story, the Golden Record, not because it is triumphant, though it is. Not because it is scientific, though it is that, too. I love it because it is lonely in the most beautiful way. It is a letter we wrote to no one. A gift we sent to an address we invented. And somehow, in the writing of that letter, in the choosing of those sounds, those songs, those images, we accidentally described what it means to be human more honestly than almost anything else we have ever made. So tonight, if it is all right with you, we will drift alongside it. We will trace its path from the launch pad to the stars. We will hold the record in our hands and feel its weight. We will listen, in our minds, to the sounds it carries. You do not have to stay awake for any of this. In fact, I hope you don't. I will keep talking long after you've gone. That is what I am here for. It is good to have you here. It really is. Now, let's go back to 1977. The year is 1977. In the history of space exploration, there are a handful of moments where luck and mathematics align so perfectly that it almost feels like the universe made a decision. 1977 was one of those moments. Once every 176 years, the outer planets of our solar system arrange themselves into a specific formation. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Not in a straight line, that is a myth, but in a curve. A long, graceful arc. The kind of arc that, if you launched a spacecraft at precisely the right moment, in precisely the right direction, would allow that spacecraft to swing around each planet in turn, gathering speed with every pass, like a stone slung from a sling, or a figure skater pulling their arms inward and beginning to spin. Scientists call this a gravity assist, a slingshot maneuver. And in 1977, the geometry of it was nearly perfect. The window would not open again until 2153. So they did not wait. On the 20th of August, 1977, Voyager 2 lifted off from Cape Canaveral. And 16 days later, on the 5th of September, Voyager 1 followed. I find something deeply comforting about this. The idea of a trajectory so precise, so mathematically inevitable, that a human being could calculate it with pencil and paper in the 1960s. And a machine launched in 1977 would arrive at Saturn's moon Titan within seconds of the predicted time. The universe is chaotic in so many ways. Storms appear, plans collapse, people leave. But gravity is patient. Gravity keeps its promises. The math said, if you leave now, you will arrive there. And it was right. It is always right. Both spacecraft were identical in most ways. Roughly the size of a small car. Two main science platforms studded with instruments. A high-gain antenna, wide as a large dining table, pointing back toward Earth. And attached to the body of each, a golden disc. Carl Sagan organized the committee. Andrew Yang was the creative director. There was Frank Drake, the astronomer who had spent his career listening for signals from other civilizations. There was Timothy Ferris, a music producer and writer. And others, scientists, artists, musicians, all working against a deadline that could not move. Because on September 5, 1977, the window would open. And then it would close. For another 176 years. They had 18 months to choose the sounds of a world. Jupiter. Say the word slowly and feel how large it sounds. Jupiter. It is the largest planet in our solar system. More than twice as massive as all the other planets combined. If the Earth were a grape, Jupiter would be a basketball. Voyager 1 reached it in March of 1979. And the images it sent back changed the way human beings understood this world. The Great Red Spot, that enormous storm that has been churning for at least 300 years, appeared in the images not as a dot, but as a vast, slowly rotating vortex, larger than our entire planet. Winds at the outer edge moving at 500 kilometers per hour. And yet, from the distance of Voyager's camera, it looked peaceful, almost meditative. The way a slow river looks peaceful from above even when it is powerful below. Jupiter does not rage. Jupiter simply is. It has always been. It will likely always be. The storms on its surface are not crises. They are its nature. It breathes that way. Saturn came next. If Jupiter is power, Saturn is grace. The rings are made of ice. Billions of fragments, ranging from the size of a sugar cube to the size of a house. They catch the distant sunlight and refract it. From certain angles, from certain distances. They almost seem to glow from within. I want you to picture this for a moment. You are floating. You are weightless. Below you stretches a planet the color of honey and cream, and spreading out from its equator, in both directions, to the very edge of your vision, are these rings, layer upon layer, translucent in places, dense and pale in others, like ripples frozen in amber, like the slow breath of something unimaginably large, caught mid-exhale. Two golden discs, two golden arrows, fired into the dark. In February of 1990, 60 degrees above the plane of our solar system, at a distance of roughly 6 billion kilometers from Earth, Voyager 1 received a command. Turn the camera around. Carl Sagan had been fighting for this for years. The engineering team was reluctant. The camera was old. The sun would be dangerously close. There was no science to gain, only a photograph. And so, on the 14th of February, 1990, Voyager 1 turned its camera. And in one of 60 frames, a single pixel, fractured by scattered sunlight, sitting in a beam of orange light like a mote of dust, was Earth, our planet. Every city, every forest, every ocean, every person who has ever lived, every love affair, every war, every symphony. One pixel, in a shaft of light. Sagan described our planet not with contempt, not with sadness, but with something like compassion. The idea that all the empires and all the generals and all the borders and all the hatred exist on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, and that perhaps our only hope is kindness to one another. I think about that image on hard nights, when the weight of the world becomes too specific, too loud. I think, somewhere, right now, a small spacecraft is traveling through the dark. And from where it sits, everything I am worried about is smaller than a pixel. Not because it doesn't matter, but because the universe is so large, and we are still here, and that is something. The pale blue dot is doing fine, and so are you. Let your eyes stay closed. Feel the surface beneath you, the way it shapes itself to you, the way gravity brings you into it. You are not floating through space tonight. You are held by the Earth itself, that pale blue dot. Voyager is out there carrying your world's heartbeat. Everything that makes this planet feel like home is encoded out there in the dark. You are allowed to let go tonight. The record is doing the holding. Every star has a breath. Our sun breathes outward. It releases a constant stream of charged particles that flows out in all directions at roughly 400 kilometers per second. This breath extends far beyond the planets. It shapes a vast, invisible bubble around our solar system. Scientists call it the heliosphere. the edge of this bubble, where the sun's breath finally becomes too faint to push back the winds of interstellar space, is called the heliopause. Think of it as the doorstep, the place where our solar system ends and everything else begins. Voyager 1 crossed that threshold in August of 2012. It became the first human-made object to enter interstellar space. Imagine standing at the edge of a warm, lit house on a winter night. The fire is behind you, the warmth is behind you, and you step outside into the cold, still air, and for a moment you just stand there. The silence of it. The total, absolute silence. Not the silence of a quiet room. The silence of a place where sound has never existed. That is what interstellar space is. It is the silence between stories. The pause between one heartbeat and the next. Voyager 1 crossed that threshold carrying a golden disc. And the golden disc carried a heartbeat. There is a certain circularity to that. A human heartbeat recorded in 1977. Crossing the edge of the solar system in 2012. Carrying the sound of the very thing that had made it possible. Life. Let's talk about the disc itself. The Golden Record. It is 12 inches in diameter, made of copper, plated in gold, sealed in a gold-plated aluminum jacket. The gold is not merely decorative. Gold does not rust. Gold does not corrode. In the vacuum of space, shielded from the worst of radiation, a gold-plated copper disc can survive. For 1 billion years. 1 billion years. The Earth itself is 4.5 billion years old. The Golden Record, if undisturbed, will outlast the Sun. It will still be intact, still carrying its grooves, its information, its songs. Long after our star has expanded into a red giant and consumed our world. The jacket of the record has instructions etched into it. Visual instructions. They assume no shared language. They show how to hold the record, how to play it, the correct rotational speed, the correct stylus size shown to scale. A stylus is included, tucked into the jacket. A needle, in case whoever finds this doesn't have one. I love that detail so much. The idea that somewhere in the engineering budget of $1 billion space mission, someone approved the line item for one record needle, just in case. There is something so human about that. The anxiety of the host. The worry that the guest might not have everything they need. We sent them music across the stars, and we also sent them the means to play it. We didn't want them to feel unwelcome. The grooves themselves. If you could hold the record in your hands, if you could run your fingertip along the surface very slowly, you would feel them. Microscopic ridges, each one a tiny variation in depth and width, each variation corresponding to a change in sound pressure, which means, embedded in the physical structure of that copper and gold, are actual sound waves, actual vibrations, the sound of rain, the sound of surf, a human heartbeat, frozen, crystallized, preserved, I just want to say something before we continue. It is the middle of the night. Or maybe it isn't quite yet. Maybe you are trying to get there. Either way, I am glad you chose to spend this time here. There are many places your mind could be right now. And you chose this. A quiet story about a golden disc in the dark. So I want you to know that while I keep talking, you have permission to stop following. You can let the words become sound. Just sound. The way rain becomes sound when you stop thinking about whether it will stop. I will be here. The story will continue. And you can just drift. What would you choose? If someone handed you a device that could hold 1 hour of sound and told you, this is everything anyone will ever know about us. Everything. Forever. Choose wisely. The record begins with the sounds of nature. Wind. Not a storm. Not a gale. Just wind. The low, constant, ancient exhalation of atmosphere moving across a surface. Rain. I want you to picture rain for a moment. Not the category of rain, but a specific rain. Maybe a rain you remember. Maybe the sound of it on a roof you once slept under. That sound, that specific, ancient, rhythmic sound, is on the record. Encoded in those golden grooves. Traveling at 38,000 miles per hour through the constellation Ophiuchus. Surf. Waves against a shore. The slow, patient conversation between water and land that has been happening for 4 billion years. Cricket and frog calls. The high, thin singing of insects on a warm night. The low, resonant call of frogs by a pond. I find frogs at night extraordinarily calming. Something about the way the sound rises and falls. The way it anchors you to a specific place and time. You hear frogs at night and you know exactly where you are. You are near water. You are in the dark. You are safe. There is the sound of a tractor. Someone decided that the sound of agriculture, of human beings turning the earth to grow food, was essential. And they were right. There is a baby on the record. A child's first sounds. Before language. Before concept. Before self. Just the sounds a human being makes when they are brand new to the world. There is the sound of a heartbeat. Recorded from a living person. The same sound you are hearing right now. If you press your hand to your chest and close your eyes and breathe slowly, that is on the record. This heartbeat. Traveling. There is the sound of a kiss. A mother kissing a child. The specific, tender sound of that gesture. Perhaps the most fundamental expression of love that exists. The kind of care that predates language. That was old when the first city was being built. On a golden disc. In interstellar space. The sound of a kiss. There is music on the golden record. 27 musical selections. Spanning thousands of years of human culture. Bach. Brandenburg Concerto No. 2. The clean, intricate architecture of Baroque counterpoint. Notes that fit together like the gears of a clock. Like the mathematics of planetary motion. Beethoven. Cavatina. Cavatina is a short song. It is slow, achingly, beautifully slow. There is a passage in the middle where the first violin begins to stutter, not from technical error, but from design. A shuddering, hesitating phrase that sounds exactly like someone trying to say something they cannot find words for. It has been described as Beethoven's musical expression of a longing too large for language. It is on the record, traveling through interstellar space, stuttering, longing, in the silence between the stars. Chuck Berry, Johnny B. Good. Carl Sagan wanted something alive, something now, something that would tell whoever found it. We were not just ancient. We were also young. We also danced. There are Navajo night chant songs, ancient ceremonial music from the American Southwest. Songs that have been sung under the same night sky, in the same cadence, for longer than many nations have existed. Georgian choral music that sounds like many conversations at once. Australian Aboriginal music. Javanese court music that sounds like rain on bronze. A Peruvian wedding song. Each of these pieces represents a worldview, a way of understanding what music is for. And then there is Blind Willie Johnson. His name was Willie Johnson. He was born in Texas in 1897. He went blind in childhood. He played guitar and sang on street corners and in churches. He recorded a handful of songs for Columbia Records in the late 1920s. One of those songs is called Dark Was the Night, Cold Was the Ground. It has no words. It is Johnson's voice, a low, moaning, wordless hum layered against his slide guitar. It sounds, more than anything else I have ever heard, like human longing in its most essential form. Before language, before narrative. Just the sound a soul makes when it is in the dark and does not know if morning is coming. And that song, that wordless moan from a blind street musician who died of pneumonia in a tin shack in 1945, is currently in interstellar space, traveling, surviving him. Surviving all of us. The most forgotten human voice on that record may be the most deeply heard. There is something on the golden record that no one asked for. Something personal. Something private. Something that was included not because it was scientifically optimal, but because a person was in love. Her name was Andrew Yang. She was a writer, the creative director of the record project. And during the course of the work, she fell in love with Carl Sagan. They both knew it before either of them said a word. One evening they agreed, over a phone call, that they would be together. And in the days that followed, and described the feeling as sustained, overwhelming joy. It was during this time that someone suggested recording human brainwaves for the record. The electrical patterns of a thinking, feeling mind. Not speech. Not music. Just the raw hum of consciousness. And volunteered. She sat in a sound booth, electrodes attached to her skull, and she meditated. For 1 hour, she thought about the entire history of Earth, about the sweep of evolution, about civilization, about love, And in the middle of it all, she thought about Carl. She thought about being in love, about the fact that she was, in this moment, the happiest she had ever been. All of those thoughts, all of that electrical activity, all of those brainwaves were recorded, compressed, pressed into the golden record. Carl and Anne married a few months later. They spent the rest of Sagan's life together. He died in 1996 and is still alive, and somewhere in the interstellar medium, at 38,000 miles per hour, in the silence between stars, her brainwaves are traveling, the electrical signature of falling in love, the specific, unique, unrepeatable hum of her mind at the moment she allowed herself to be happy. She has said that she finds this comforting, that her love for Carl is not buried, not gone. It is out there, in the cold and the dark and the quiet, surviving, traveling, going further than any human being has ever gone. You are here. You felt things today too, and that matters. Voyager 1 is fast. By any human standard, it is extraordinarily fast. It travels at roughly 17 kilometers per second, about 38,000 miles per hour, and yet, in roughly 300 years, Voyager 1 will reach the inner edge of the Oort cloud. The Oort cloud is a vast, spherical shell of icy objects surrounding our entire solar system. Its inner edge is perhaps 2,000 times the distance from Earth to the Sun. Its outer edge may extend a quarter of the way to the nearest star. It is not a place. It is a neighborhood. A silent, frozen neighborhood of debris left over from the formation of our solar system. Objects that have been slowly orbiting, in almost perfect darkness, for 4.5 billion years. Voyager will take roughly 300 years to reach the inner edge of this cloud, and it will take approximately 30,000 years to pass through it. 30,000 years. Agriculture is approximately 12,000 years old. Writing is perhaps 5,000. The pyramids of Giza are 4,500 years old. Voyager will spend more than twice the entire span of recorded human history simply passing through a region of our own solar system. I find this scale not frightening, but strangely releasing. We tend to think of our worries on a human timescale. Today, this week, this year, maybe the next decade. But the universe operates on schedules we cannot quite comprehend. The icy bodies drifting in that vast shell have never experienced time the way we do. They simply exist. Slowly. Patiently. You do not have to solve everything tonight. Some things will resolve themselves in time. The universe has patience enough for everything. Our sun is approximately 5 billion years old. It has approximately 5 billion years remaining before it begins to change, to expand, to swell, to brighten. In roughly 5 billion years, it will grow large enough to engulf Mercury and Venus, and almost certainly, Earth. Everything we have ever made. Every building, every city, every forest, every ocean, every grave, every monument, every record, all of it consumed. Except one. The golden record. By the time our sun expands, the golden record will be so far away, so deep in the interstellar medium, that the death of our sun will be nothing more than a brief brightening in the sky, a flicker, a distant event that has nothing to do with it. It will be intact, its gold still reflecting whatever starlight it encounters, its grooves still holding those sounds, that heartbeat, those songs, those brainwaves. A billion years of solitude, and it will still be there. I don't know why that gives me such comfort. It shouldn't, logically. We will be gone. Everyone we love will be gone. Everything we built will be gone. And yet, something of us will survive. Not DNA. Not descendants. Not legacy. Something more direct than that. The actual sound of rain. The actual sound of a heartbeat. The actual electrical hum of a woman falling in love. Not a copy. Not a representation. The physical encoding of the actual event. Those specific pressure waves, frozen in gold, traveling forever. We sent a message to a universe that may never answer. We said, we were here. We felt things. The rain felt like this. The heartbeat sounded like this. Being in love felt like this. And the universe received it and kept it. And is keeping it still. That is not nothing. That is not insignificant. That is the most human thing I can imagine. To send love into the dark. Without certainty. Without guarantee. Just the choice to put something beautiful out there. And trust the void to carry it. You are in your bed. Somewhere between 23 and 24 billion kilometers from here. A small, golden disk is moving through the dark. It does not need you to be awake. It does not need your attention or your worry or your vigilance. It is already taken care of. It has been taken care of for nearly 50 years. Voyager is out there doing the traveling. So you don't have to. Let the weight come back into your body. Your shoulders. Your hips. Your legs. Feel the warmth under your blankets. The specific, particular warmth of your own body heat. Gathered around you like a held breath. You are inside. You are warm. You are safe. Outside the window, the night is doing what nights do. Slowly turning. Stars moving in their old, reliable arcs. And far, far beyond those stars, past the edge of the sun's reach, in the cold and the quiet of interstellar space, a golden disk carries the memory of a world that is still out there, still breathing, still sending its children to sleep. The rain is on the record. The heartbeat is on the record. The song of a blind man in the dark is on the record. And all of it is moving away from us at 38,000 miles per hour, getting further and quieter and more ancient with every second. And somehow, impossibly, still here, still carrying us. I am so glad you spent this time with me. Truly. There is something about sitting with a story like this one, in the quiet, with someone else in the dark, that I find I cannot quite replace. You do not have to stay awake for the rest of this. The 432 Hz tone will continue. The brown noise will hold the space. And when morning comes, and you open your eyes, and the ordinary world assembles itself around you again, know that somewhere, the golden record is still traveling. And so are you. Good night. Sleep well.